So today we're in the hothouse, and other than a brief watering visit, I haven't really had a good look around in here since coming out of hospital. It's only 2 weeks since my surgery and I'm very slowly coming off liquids, so I've not really been up to much as my body continues to waste away on such a big calorie deficit. But hopefully the tide's turning, fingers crossed. So please give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this video, and that will really help to lift my spirits. However, I'm feeling better each day that goes by with the odd blip, so I thought it'd be great to see how the plants were getting on with my new temperature money saving setup. So let's get started. And we are in. So as you're no doubt aware, the current prices of energy are at such an all-time high that many people are having to take drastic measures with their plant setup, and I'm no exception. I had intended on using the multi-foil insulation, if you saw one of my previous videos, and I actually spent several £100s on all the materials, but alas, that will have to wait till I can physically manage to do it. Fingers crossed, maybe December, January time. Here in the hothouse is where the traditional houseplants are kept. In other words, plants that need higher temperatures that we usually associate with our houses, with some notable exceptions as you'll see later on. So you'd expect the cost of heating it to be in here to be much higher in the greenhouse because of the higher temperature. However, that's somewhat offset by the superior insulation I have in here compared to the greenhouse. It also gets no direct sun now for at least another 5 months, which of course doesn't help matters. So how do I save money heating it and still keep the plants ticking over? I could use any leftover multi-foil insulation, which was and is my intention once I can physically manage it. I could also reduce the temperature, and many plants would muddle along if it were in short bursts and my atmosphere were less humid. But this would need to be for months, and my atmosphere is always very humid, something that would have a very detrimental effect. Cold and wet is never a great combination for tropical plants. So what's my answer? Well, it occurred to me that my friends in Florida very often have low nighttime temperatures during the winter, sometimes as low as 5 degrees Celsius. But then during the day, the temperature goes back up into the 20s again, and the plants seem to cope with that. So what if I could just reduce my temperatures in here for a few hours at a time, thus saving money without causing the plants too many issues? So I bought myself a controller to control the heater, which I've had in here all along, but crucially this one allows you to set 2 different temperature settings, one for the daytime, one for the nighttime. So this one in here is now set to give me a minimum temperature of 10 degrees Celsius overnight, yet during the day it pushes it back up to roughly 17-18 degrees Celsius. I figure this might help minimise the plant losses, yet save me half of what it was costing me to pay for electricity at this time last year, and that's where we're currently at. I can do some tweaking to this depending on the results as time goes by. So let's look around at how things have been doing on this new temperature setup and whether we have any winners and losers so far in the plants this autumn. So starting over here, I'm happy to report that nothing appears to be suffering so far. The Epicatanthe is doing better than ever, with several bloom spikes at once and one already gone over and cut off. The spider mite magnets that are plumeria are clinging on, although they always drop the leaves at some point. You can still see the damage caused by the mites on the leaves, and no matter how many times I spray them, they return in shorter and shorter intervals. But I do have a plan to tackle that coming up in possibly my next video. This one, which has never bloomed yet, is actually in bud, but I expect it'll run out of time this season and they'll blast. But that does all go well for next year. This Calicia is throwing out some lovely shades of pink, possibly from the sun, maybe even from the cooler nighttime temperatures, maybe at the root of that. Colocasia mojito, which I believe prefers a constantly high temperature of 22 degrees Celsius and above, has never really got going this season, but it is still only a baby. And it's now down to its final leaf before I guess it'll go dormant, but hopefully it'll spring back to life next year. I'm not actually going to lift it and dry it off. I'll simply stop watering once this leaf does eventually drop. I'm kind of secretly hoping, with fingers crossed, that it doesn't drop and it chucks up another one. Over here we have Begonia longiciliata synonym size Morier. If you caught my dedicated video on this, you'll know that it's one of those rare tropical plants that can actually take extreme cold. So cold in fact that it's off to the greenhouse with this one to give me some more room in here and give it some more room to grow these wonderful hairy, textured, huge leaves, and you can see it's in bloom as well. I know they're nothing to write home about, but it's a little bit extra to it. This is definitely a great choice as a houseplant if you grow in a room with large temperature fluctuations, and of course the drier you can keep it, the less humid you can keep it, the lower in temperatures it'll go. My Monstera albo variegata actually appears to have speeded up its growth since I introduced the cool night temperatures. It keeps throwing out these leaves. This will no doubt soon have outgrown this space and I'll have to relocate it to the house, but not before taking a cutting or two. Two plants that I know from experience that don't like to be below 15 degrees Celsius for very long. Not that it kills them, but they will defoliate, and that's Begonia griffon and Begonia luxurians. The question remains as to whether the 12-hour period of warmth during the day will be enough to offset the 12 hours of 10 degrees at night. I'll be keeping a close eye on them both. So far so good. I've cut a few leaves off the luxurians which kind of browned off. You can see that's still got a while to come back from its drowning in summer. The Caleria, which can very often go dormant in winter anyway, are actually just about to bloom following the summer setback when I was away on holiday. So I've no intention of stopping them, especially as the new varieties that haven't bloomed for me yet. I've not waited a full 12 months not to see them bloom, so I'm just going to leave them, see what happens. And I will actually make a dedicated video to that when they do bloom, because somebody asked me about that. The rest of the begonias in here haven't so far really batted an eyelid at the cool night temperatures, except perhaps for the species Begonia ceratipitella, which never really recovered from the overwatering it got while I was away in August. There's still time for it to recover though. My Escananthus hot flash is in full bloom, so no problems there. The Philodendron verrucosum is growing more strongly than ever despite a continued thrip attack. I do detect a slight browning of this lower leaf here, but that's possibly from the repeated spraying with the systemics. Again, I've got a different method I'm going to try for these, which I'll put in another video. There's no spikes on the hippeastrums, and these might be my greatest sacrifices, I think, with these lower temperatures. They really don't like to be much below 18 degrees Celsius, and although the cold won't kill them, it's unlikely that they're going to actually bloom for me this year. I might take one or two into the house and see how they do in there. The other begonias are doing okay, perhaps the odd browning leaf. I can live with that. I think the aim is just to slow the gradual decline down and see how the money situation pans out. I can always increase or decrease the time spent at 10 degrees Celsius depending on various factors. This Begonia Black Fang is looking absolutely fantastic with the extra light I've been giving it after I moved it a few feet a bit more underneath the light. Other Vietnamese begonias like this Begonia melanobulata won't really be troubled too much, as they come from mountainous areas that are well used to these lower temperatures occasionally. In fact, some say these bumps and hairs are actually to shade it from the sun on exposed cliff sides where they grow. Others might disagree, of course. Okay, so far so good. It's early days yet, but still getting the odd warmer day and warmer night in the autumn. The real test of this temperature setup will be when outside it's only 6 hours of daylight, the temperatures are below 5 degrees Celsius day and night, in addition to the high humidity. So let's try and reconvene this thread in January and see if I need to make any adjustments, even if it means reducing the number of hours at the lower temperatures. It'll still be a saving on 24/7 at 18 degrees Celsius. So it's worth a try. It's also worth being extremely vigilant, as no plant will suddenly decline. It'll be a gradual thing, so I need to be on top of that. So please tell me in the comments what you're doing, if anything, to reduce your heating costs this year in relation to your plants. I'm sure everybody will be all ears when it comes to saving a bit of cash, and that might just be enough to enable us to continue with our plant hobby. And if you enjoyed looking at my begonias, you might be interested in a little experiment I ran on the effectiveness of various begonia propagation methods, which you can watch over in this video here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.